Welcome to Canadian Innovators, the show that celebrates innovation, entrepreneurs, and the Canadian spirit. I'm Jocelyn Bamford, and every week we introduce a new entrepreneur, tell their stories, and unpack the challenges of keeping jobs in Canada, as well as discuss potential solutions for job growth and prosperity. Manufacturing is the lifeblood of the Ontario economy. Canadians witnessed how vulnerable we were when we discovered during the COVID pandemic that Canada did not manufacture many items that were necessary to keep us safe. Things like masks and gloves and ventilators were built offshore. We also found out that Canada had no strategic plan to keep and grow manufacturing. Joining us to discuss this today and talk about a way forward is Jay Myers, President and Chief Executive Officer of NGEN. Jay was a mentor of mine when I started the Coalition of Concerned Manufacturers and Businesses of Canada and gave me such sage advice in starting a manufacturing organization. And he is one of the foremost experts on the manufacturing space in Canada. Welcome to the program, Jay.
Hey, Jocelyn, great to be here.
So could you tell us about NGEN? I'm sure a lot of Canadians do not know what NGEN does. So can you give us an overview of your organization?
Sure. Well, NGEN stands for Next Generation Manufacturing Canada. It's the company that is leading Canada's advanced manufacturing supercluster. And what we do is find sources of funding to invest in building world-leading advanced manufacturing capabilities here in Canada for the benefit of Canadians. So we've been very, very active over the past 2 years in funding projects that involve new advanced manufacturing processes, but developing ventilators, medical devices, PPE, vaccines, test kits to fight COVID, for instance, but all the way through to really, really unique projects that involve the adoption of advanced technologies really to revolutionize manufacturing processes in some of our traditional industries like steel and automotive, for instance, or the development of brand new manufacturing processes, manufacturing capabilities that are really unique, that will give Canadian companies a leg up in the world market.
Well, that's super cool. I mean, there's lots of new technology, so we're happy to hear about it. So tell us how NGEN started and what your team does.
Well, we started about 3 years ago. We were a startup ourselves, and it took a while to scale up into full operations. We've been in a full operational mode now for about a year and a half, really from the beginning of the pandemic forward. We have a team of about 35 people, and they work with companies, tech companies, researchers, and manufacturers to develop really unique types of solutions that can be applied in a variety of different industry sectors. But the idea here is to develop solutions for manufacturing. You know, Canada has some of the best research, some of the best tech companies, and some of the best manufacturers in the world. And just our sort of operating strategy here is based on the belief of if we can combine these, we can create something of exponential value as a result of that. And that's what we're trying to do. So we bring research teams together, we bring technology companies together and manufacturing companies together to really develop very unique solutions that then can be applied elsewhere. For instance, we've got a great project with Dofasco. We're helping that company digitize their steel production. And that's basically because a lot of people who know when to pour molten steel are retiring and they need something just about as good. But that project involves Internet of Things and sensors and materials science and automation systems. And so it's really an integrated package to come up with a solution for Dofasco. And, you know, at the end of the day, all we're doing is looking at hazardous fluid and monitoring that and controlling that whole process, but that can be applied in chemicals and pharmaceuticals and food processing. So it's a really focusing on really unique types of solutions, and then looking at how do we commercialize that, and what's the IP strategy that helps to deliver bigger benefits, economic benefits
So
for.
I'm going to
For
stop you
Canada.
there. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going
Great,
to hear about some projects that you worked on.
super.
And we're back with Canadian Innovators. We're talking with Jay Myers, the president and CEO of NGEN. And before we went to break, you were talking about the NGEN program. And now we're going to talk about some specific projects that you worked on that you really thought were unique. So we have some pictures that we're going to put up, and we'd love you to walk us through and talk about these projects.
Well, this is one that I'm really proud of. It's a shot of, and maybe you've seen some of the ads that we were running over the summer called careersofthefuture.ca. We brought manufacturers across the country to support a campaign to attract young people into careers in advanced manufacturing. And we discovered that, it's not young people who need digital skills. We've got lots of really good digital skills among young people. We need to make the case that they need to work in manufacturing. But we've got great response. Over 250,000 young people who are now on our website, who are looking at resources that will attract them, I hope, into academic careers that will eventually get them into the manufacturing sector.
And it's really going to be a challenge because we have a lot of people in the manufacturing space that are getting close to retirement, and we're not seeing the young people coming in to backfill. So it's great that you're moving forward to try and attract attention, because manufacturing is very interesting. I mean, there's so many facets to the manufacturing field. So we have another picture. Why don't you tell us about what's happening in this project?
Well, we were talking about some of the projects to develop PPE, and we supported some great projects to develop everything from N95 masks or masks that are even better than N95 masks, all the way through to ventilators, to, in this case, this isn't a COVID project, but this is a robotic hand that very close to a human hand that can be used to pick fruit, pick mushrooms. There's some really amazing projects. I guess two that stand out, and I don't have pictures for them to me, but just off the wall projects. One is the development of solar panel covering using moth eyeballs. And the lens from a moth eyeball that can concentrate light onto solar panels. That's a fantastic project. And the other that really gets my imagination is the development of new robotics processes that will be used in the space station orbiting the moon to manufacture advanced materials in outer space. And these are just some of the capabilities we have, and they're the best kept secrets in the world, and or at least in Canada, because they're emblematic of the great things that we do. Everything from medical devices and biomanufacturing and robotics and machine learning. This is, we are leaders in many of these fields, and we can do a lot better by actually celebrating the great successes we have in this country.
Yeah, we don't celebrate our successes. We don't tell our successes. And we need a strategy to keep those successes here in Canada, because quite frequently we have technology and our innovation becomes another country's success story. So we really need to have a strategy to keep business and manufacturing and innovation here in Canada. So talk to us about innovation, Jay. What are you seeing in Canada as a whole right now?
Well, I think the pandemic has certainly sped up the adoption, the use of a lot of digital technologies. That is true. The issue, though, is whether businesses are using those technologies well. Companies will jump in, they'll invest in a technology, but our experience is that doesn't always work out that well. That you don't start off by investing in technology. You start off by really understanding where your business is going, how you add value, what sort of waste is there, what non-value adding activities you can take out of your business, and then come up with a tech solution that works for your business so you can achieve your business objectives. AI is a really good example around machine learning. Everybody talks about AI and algorithms, but what companies really have to focus on is where in your process is a system of prediction going to help you do business better. And that's a simple business decision And at the end of the day, that's where we spend an awful lot of time working with companies to help them identify their IP strategy, their business strategy, and then where in their business can technology or this combination integration of technologies work for them.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, manufacturers, I always say, we don't know what we don't know. So if there's a better, faster way of doing things and we can get assistance in helping that, that'll help us grow. So we're going to go to break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about specifically NGEN and how it all comes together and how we can make it work for Canadian manufacturers. You're watching Canadian Innovators. Don't go away. Welcome back. I'm talking to Jay Myers from NGEN. He's the president and CEO. Jay, we're having a fascinating discussion about NGEN and the processes. So, one of the things I hear manufacturers say is, why do we need these superclusters? What are they all about? Isn't it really a waste of money? What do you say, Jay?
Well, first of all, what we're trying to do is identify all of these great capabilities we have across the country and kind of connect the dots here. Most manufacturers, most businesses don't necessarily know what lies outside of their own business, where those capabilities are. So if you're trying to solve a problem, chances are that someone has come up with a really, really good solution, and we're playing a role to kind of help connect the dots to identify where that solution can come from. But Jocelyn, the other thing is that manufacturers actually don't want to buy technology. They want to buy a solution. It's like wanting to buy a car because you want to drive somewhere. You don't care how the car is put together. You just want it to work. You don't want to know all of the parts of a car. And the tech companies in Canada, although they're great companies and with great capabilities, come to the table with the parts that need to be put together into a solution that works for manufacturing. And unless they do that, by investing in a tech that a company can't manage or doesn't have the skill sets to manage, or where you need to invest in other parts of technology to make it manageable by the manufacturer, is frankly a waste of money. So I think there is a real role for a connector, for a group like us who can help to facilitate these integrated solutions and build bridges, and in fact even translate from tech to manufacturing and vice versa. It's a difficult thing to do, and it doesn't happen in the marketplace.
Now, one of the things we always hear about, we're hearing about IT and superclusters and the Internet of Things, but we rarely hear about manufacturing. So you have the idea, and then you have to put it all together. So what are you seeing, and why are politicians not getting the importance of the manufacturing that puts it all together?
Well, I think that politicians may understand the importance of manufacturing, but they don't understand how complicated this whole supply chain, value chain behind manufacturing is here. And we kind of saw that in the pandemic. I'll just go out and make a ventilator. Well, and in fact, that was one of our major projects. We commissioned a company to do exactly that. But what they had to do was re-engineer a ventilator and significantly reduce the number of components so that they could be sourced in Canada. And so until they were able to do that, they weren't really able to deliver that product at the end of the day. So manufacturing is a really complicated business. It's a business where tremendous competitive challenges, very tight profit margins, as you know, and we've got to navigate our way through that. We've got great capabilities that I think we can really increase our capability if we're able to combine through collaboration across between technology and manufacturing. But it takes a long-term commitment, and our investors aren't ready all the time to make that long-term patient investment that's needed to actually scale up production, even of some of the new tech devices that we have. So that's the role that NGEN plays. We're kind of filling in the funding role between the prototype and and funding the scale up, the pilot project, all the way up to full scale production. And that's really the valley of death for many manufacturers. One of the reasons why we don't have tech companies that are scaling up here in Canada, because there isn't enough support at that funding stage.
Now, I just have a minute left, but Jay, I'm constantly hearing on some of the largest infrastructure projects that politicians and large corporations say Canada just doesn't have the expertise to deliver. And I say that's absolutely nonsense. What do you say?
I think it's nonsense too. I think we have tremendous capabilities in this country. I don't know if we manage them all that well here, but we also need a policy framework to make this happen, to make sure that we're bringing in investment. We've got the skills required to make it work, that we've got the project management skills here, that we're green lighting projects all the way through here, but doing responsible environmental assessments at the same time. And so it really takes a systems approach. If we're just setting regulations and setting targets and overall policy objectives, it doesn't work. You need to get into implementation here, and government has a role to play in procurement as well.
So we need to go to break, Jay, but when we get back, you're going to be in the hot seat as a politician. We'll be right back on Canadian Innovators. Welcome back. We're talking with Jay Myers from NGEN. And before we went to break, we were talking about some of the challenges in manufacturing. And I always like to put my guests on the hot seat and ask them, if you were a politician, if you were the premier or the prime minister, what would you do to put in policies that got manufacturing going in Canada? So over to you, Jay.
Thanks. I'd probably do the impossible. I would take a long-term strategic view. The short-term time horizon of politicians, maybe 5 years, if that, is never long enough to make really strategic investments. And it's all too easy to focus on the small stuff rather than the broader picture here. We've got, and that was the case during the pandemic. The government was full bore on developing PPE and manufacturing capabilities here in Canada to manufacture PPE. And then at the end of the day, when government inventories were full, everybody stopped buying, and the PPE companies then had real difficulty in getting their product onto the market because there weren't any standards. There were no testing facilities here. There was very little infrastructure. There's very little other types of support, even to get them into international markets. So you really need to take an overall strategic view of what's needed to build a manufacturing sector. And again, that is far beyond any election time horizon that the politicians usually work towards. So I don't know if that's impossible to take a much more strategic, longer-term view, but unless we have that, and then of course a view where the federal government has to work with provincial governments to achieve the opportunity that is there. We still operate on a tremendously fragmented basis where we're operating at cross purposes. So coordination, long-term vision, and a much more comprehensive strategic view.
Yeah, without a strategy on all levels and from all political parties, we're not going to be able to have great manufacturing and keep great manufacturing in Canada. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. Jay, you have been around manufacturing a long time. What do you see as the biggest challenge for manufacturing to stay competitive and grow in Canada?
Well, I think there's certainly, everything is changing so rapidly, and the competitive pressures are huge. And I would say, manufacturers are going to go where the money is. They're going to make decisions around where the best commercial opportunities are. They need really supportive policies in order to help them make decisions about investing here and building here in Canada. But I think manufacturers themselves have a role to play in realizing that their job is creating value for their customers. Is not just getting product out the door, and then now looking at new technologies and what sort of new capabilities that those technologies that can provide them in doing business better. But at the end of the day, it comes down to money. Vision without money is hallucination. And you've got to, most of that money comes from internal cash flow within the company. And unless manufacturers are making really good strategic decisions themselves, know how to generate value for their customers, they're going to be facing difficulties, and just be prepared for the risks that lie ahead. Those risks are also opportunities. But today, more than ever before, no company can operate on its own. There's lots of support out there, and it's really a team sport today in order to compete, I think, going into the future.
So look into the future, Jay. We just got about 30 seconds left, and tell us what you see the future for manufacturing in Canada.
Well, I think it's really bright. I think it's certainly going to be different. Far fewer people working. We've got 25% of the workforce are going to be retired in the next 10 years. So we know we have to be much more automated, much more highly technology intensive, and we need a workforce that's prepared to get us there. And I think maybe that's going to be the biggest challenge that we face.
Thank you, Jay. That's all the time we have today.
Thanks a lot, Jocelyn. This has been great.
That's all the time we have for today. Thanks to my guest, Jay Myers. Imagine if Canada had a solid strategic plan for manufacturing in order to attract new manufacturing and keep the ones we have. Imagine the jobs and prosperity this would bring to Canada. All we need is politicians with the will to do this and an electorate that demands this. I'm Jocelyn Bamford. Thank you for watching Canadian Innovators, and we'll see you next time.